Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Harvest of the Month for Producers. My name is Katie Halloran, and I work as the Farm to Cafeteria Coordinator at the National Center for Appropriate Technology, more commonly known as NCAT. NCAT is a nationwide nonprofit organization with 5 regional headquarters across the country. We work on issues pertaining to sustainable agriculture, sustainable energy, and sustainable communities. Today's webinar is being funded in part by the Montana Healthcare Foundation, and we are grateful for the support. The Montana Harvest of the Month program showcases Montana-grown foods in our schools and communities. This project is a collaboration between the National Center for Appropriate Technology, the Office of Public Instruction, Montana Team Nutrition Program, Montana State University Extension, Gallatin Valley Farm to School, and Food Corps Montana. The Montana Harvest of the Month development team was led by Aubrey Roth, who is the Montana Farm to School Coordinator with Montana Team Nutrition, as well as the Montana State Lead with the National Farm to School Network. She will provide an overview of the Harvest of the Month program to get us started. Following Aubrey's presentation, we will hear from Erin Jackson and Megan Montgomery with Gallatin Valley Farm to School, one of the 11 pilot sites for the Harvest of the Month program. Finally, Nate Brown from Amalthea Organic Dairy will talk about his experience selling products to schools for Harvest of the Month meals and activities. We hope that today's webinar is helpful to you in learning about this opportunity for supplying participating schools with your local products. As you're listening to today's webinar, you can type in any questions you might have in the field you see on your screen, and we will answer as many as we have time for at the end of the presentation. If we don't get to your question before we wrap up at noon, I will get back to you via email in the days to come. Please plan to take just a few minutes to complete the survey you'll see on your screen after we close here. This webinar is being recorded, and we will email you a link to the recording as soon as it is ready. Thanks again for joining us, and with that, I would like to turn it over to Aubrey Roth.
Hello everyone, I'm Aubrey Roth and I am the Montana Farm to School Coordinator for Montana Team Nutrition Program and serve as the Montana State Lead for the National Farm to School Network. Montana Team Nutrition Program is the training arm of the Office of Public Instruction's School Nutrition Programs, and we're housed at Montana State University. I have the pleasure of coordinating the incredible Harvest of the Month team. Thank you, Katie and NCAT, for hosting this webinar today. Next. I will be talking about the basics of the Harvest of the Month program and how it works. Next. Montana Harvest of the Month is a new program that showcases Montana-grown foods in Montana schools and communities. This program provides a simple framework to start and grow farm-to-school programs. The program helps to promote healthy eating habits and supports Montana food producers. This program has been developed over the past 2 years and piloted in 11 sites around Montana for a year. Next. This is a collaborative statewide program and has been made possible by our awesome partners, as shown on the left, and our incredible funders on the right. Next. Montana Harvest of the Month has been supported by many individuals, many of whom volunteered their time to make this a success. Next. So let's jump in and see how it works. Currently, we have 10 months of materials created for K-12 schools and after-school programs. Each month, a different food is featured. March is Beef Month, and next up is Grain Month. As you can see, the program currently features carrots, beets, beef, grains, lentils, leafy greens, summer squash, kale, apples, and winter squash. This calendar was created with the help of Montana producers and Food Corps service members. Sites may change the calendar to suit their needs if they wish. Next. Participating schools have 4 main responsibilities. First, they need to form a team that at a minimum includes school administration, food service staff, and a teacher. We highly encourage bringing in others to serve on the team to help implement the program. These people could include producers, students, parents, community organizations, extension agents, SNAP Ed educators, and others. Second, the school must showcase each Harvest of the Month item using Montana Foods at least once during the month in an educational activity, a taste test, and a school meal or snack. Third, the site will use the provided materials and display in a visible location. Finally, they'll participate in evaluation. Next, our team will support Harvest of the Month sites by providing one packet to each school or after-school program that registers, providing electronic versions of the materials, providing guides and resources such as a taste testing manual, conducting trainings like this one, and providing support. Let's see what it looks like all put together. This is an example of a team at Monforton School, which you will be hearing more about in a bit. In this case, the administrator supports the program, works with teachers and other staff to coordinate, and helps find funding. The food service manager serves the Harvest of the Month item, usually twice or more a month. The teachers talk about Harvest of the Month foods and work with the community partner. In other schools, the teachers conduct the activities themselves. Community partner. On this team, Gallatin Valley Farm to School does the activities with the students, helps to find local foods, and helps with taste tests. Producer. The food service and community partners work with local and Montana producers and food businesses to buy local foods and to go on farm field trips. Each month, participating schools must conduct at least one educational activity. This could be as simple as teachers reading the fun facts provided in the materials and discussing the foods in class. Or it could be as involved as having all of the students in the school painting with beets and helping to make and then taste a beet salad. It works best when a taste test accompanies a lesson so students learn about the food and taste it when they are most interested in it. Cooking projects are awesome, and recipes are included in the teacher handouts. Research shows that it can take children up to 20 times of trying a food before they will like it. That's a lot of yucks or no thank yous. Taste tests can decrease waste in the cafeteria and help to develop new recipes. The Harvest of the Month taste tests should be conducted at least once each month and can be conducted either in the cafeteria or the classroom or somewhere else that makes sense for the school. The taste test should use the tried it, liked it, loved it voting system, which promotes polite behaviors. Sites can use any method for voting: tokens in containers, stickers as shown here, a tally system, or raised hands, which is the quickest but probably the least fun. Schools need help conducting taste tests, so this is a great place for parents, community members, and organizations, as well as producers, to link in. Schools need to serve the item in a school meal or snack at least once per month, and preferably more, to increase students' exposure and acceptance of the foods. Here's one of Monforton's lunches: chili with local beef and cinnamon rolls, one of my favorite school lunches. Sites should use the materials and display the posters in a visible location, as well as use other signage to highlight foods and activities as shown on this menu and salad bar. This is a great place to promote local producers. Each K-12 school or after-school program that registers will receive one packet that includes the following for each month: the gorgeous posters. Additional posters will be available for purchase on the MSU Extension publication store. 3 handouts that include fun facts, cooking information, etc., newsletter content, and additional signs to draw attention to the foods in the lunch line. In addition to the information that is on all of the handouts, the Cafeteria Bites handout also includes school food service recipes that have meal pattern crediting information. The Classroom Bites handout includes activities for elementary students and home-sized recipes that make enough for a class to sample. Most months include one raw recipe and one that requires cooking. It also has a short list of relevant children's books. The Harvest at Home handout is perfect for sending home to parents or including on a menu. You can copy, paste, and edit the newsletter content, which is an electronic Word document, to fit your menu, newsletter, school announcements, social media posts, and more. So by now, I hope you're thinking that this program sounds pretty awesome. Let's take a look at a few of its impacts and benefits. As I said before, we took a year and worked with 11 sites to pilot test the program and found that it was even more beneficial than we had hoped. Check out some of the many ways it helped schools on this slide. Overall, the program provided an easy way for schools to jump on the farm to school bandwagon. Also, it grew collaborations as well as opportunities for producers. And if you like numbers, during the pilot's 10 months, over 73,000 servings of Harvest of the Month foods were served. 145 taste tests were conducted, which included over 11,000 samples. 62% of students said they loved the foods they tried, and only 19% said they just tried it, which is equivalent to not liking it. Thousands of pounds of food were purchased, and over $8,000 was spent on local foods. These specific reporting numbers were pretty spotty, so these numbers are lower than the actual amount spent on local foods for the pilot. As you can see, this program has the potential to benefit schools as well as local producers. There are many ways for you as a food producer or business to get involved. The most obvious way is to approach your nearby schools about selling to them. If you need assistance with this, please visit the Montana Farm to School website, which is shown at the top of the slide, and click on School Food in the Resources section, or contact me. Producers can also help with taste tests. It would be amazing to have individuals who grew or made the food handing out samples and talking with the students about the food they are trying. Be sure to work with the school for preparation, allergies, and logistics. A taste test manual will be available to make the process easier. Also consider being engaged in the education piece of this program. Host a farm field trip to your farm or a field trip to your business to feature one of the Harvest of the Month foods. Come into the classroom to talk about what you do and see if you can bring a sample of the Harvest of the Month food. There are many ways that you can be involved, and we would love to hear your ideas. Send them my way. Registration is open. K-12 schools and after-school programs in Montana can register online at the website shown here, or you can contact me for more information. If you want to learn more about Farm to School and Montana Harvest of the Month, I encourage you to join us for the Montana Farm to School Summit at MSU in Bozeman on September 22nd and 23rd. This conference will have workshops, field trips, Montana and National Farm to School champions, and will be an excellent opportunity for you as food producers and businesses to connect with your potential school markets. Visit the Montana Farm to School website shown at the top for more details and to register today. Thank you so much for your time.
Great, thank you so much for that overview, Aubrey. I would now like to introduce Erin Jackson and Megan Montgomery. Erin is the Education Coordinator with Gallatin Valley Farm to School, a nonprofit organization based in Bozeman that seeks to cultivate healthy kids, vibrant farms, and strong communities. Megan Montgomery is the Food Corps service member working with Gallatin Valley Farm to School in the Bozeman area schools. Food Corps is a nationwide team of AmeriCorps leaders who connect kids to real food and help them grow up healthy. Megan is one of the 11 Food Corps members currently serving in Montana. Erin and Megan will be talking about piloting the Harvest of the Month program in the Bozeman area, as well as covering some considerations when selling to schools. Erin and Megan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Katie. So my name is Erin Jackson, and like Katie said, I'm the Education Coordinator with Gallatin Valley Farm to School. I have been involved in farm to school education for 5 years, starting in Vermont when I was working with high school students in a garden-based summer program involving growing and processing thousands of pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables for use in the students' school cafeteria. In 2012, I moved to Bozeman to accept a position as a food corps service member at Highlight Elementary School, where I developed the school's nutrition and garden program. In my current position with Gallatin Valley Farm to School, I work on a county-wide scale, teaching kids about where food comes from through classroom lessons, farm field trips, and summer camps.
I'm Megan Montgomery, and I am the food corps service member in Bozeman, and I work at Gallatin Valley Farm to School with Aaron Jackson. My background is in ecology and environmental education, and I bring about 5 years of experience in agricultural ecology and conservation to my role. Food Corps is a national AmeriCorps program that addresses food, garden, and nutrition education and strives to increase the amount of local fresh vegetables and fruits that students are introduced to in a school setting. I currently focus part of my position on procurement, working with the Monforton, Bozeman, and Belgrade school districts to increase cafeteria use of local products. Since the beginning of this school year, we have used the Harvest of the Month program as a platform for coordinating between schools and producers to focus on using each month's item in featured dishes. I act as a procurement liaison for the schools, contacting farmers and local distributors to find out product availability, pricing, and other details. I also help develop new recipes for Harvest of the Month items and hold cafeteria taste tests of new dishes in Monforton and Bozeman. Next.
Like I mentioned, Gallatin Valley Farm to School is a Bozeman-based nonprofit that connects schools and farmers in the Gallatin Valley to cultivate healthy kids, vibrant farms, and strong communities. We have 3 focus areas, which are cafeteria, classroom, and community. Within these areas, our main programs are classroom and garden education, our seed to snack summer camps that take place at the school gardens, cafeteria program assistance like you'll hear about today, and community events. Gallatin Valley Farm to School is a food corps service site, and having our food corps member has made it possible for us to implement the successful farm to school programs with Monforton and Bozeman School District that you will hear about today. Next. So farm to school programs can look very different depending on the size of the school district and which community or school partners are involved. The Monforton School Program is an example of a school-based program made possible through a partnership with a community organization, which is in this case, Gallatin Valley Farm to School. For some background, this program was school-driven by the Monforton Wellness Committee, a group made up of parents, teachers, and community partners like Farm to School. Using the results of a school-wide wellness implementation survey, the Wellness Committee set goals to increase nutrition education, increase the procurement of local foods, to build a school garden to supply food to the school cafeteria, and to improve student nutrition by only selling healthy items for snack. The Harvest of the Month program, which we implemented at Monforton, offered a clear starting point for these goals, so the Wellness Committee applied for grants that would support this program and a partnership with Gallatin Valley Farm to School. In this partnership, we lead classroom Harvest of the Month lessons and farm field trips, and we assist Erin Turner, the food service director, in developing recipes and procuring local food for the cafeteria. We also lead taste tests to introduce the food prior to it being served so that the kids will recognize it and choose it at lunch. Next.
Bozeman is a larger school district, so the Harvest of the Month program takes a very different form than in smaller schools like Monforton, as it likely will in many of the districts you will be working with as well. I communicate with the central kitchen staff to develop recipes that will be kid-friendly but will still feature the Harvest of the Month item. I also send school food service staff information about who local producers are, what their price is, and what quantity and quality they are likely to have. Working with a larger central kitchen has its benefits. I go through one point of contact to coordinate one larger order instead of communicating with many schools to coordinate disparate purchases for different recipes and different timelines. This streamlines the process, which makes it easier for me as a community partner and for producers to determine how much of their product will be needed and when. We try to include a taste test for each recipe that the Food and Nutrition Services wants to serve to make sure it will be ultimately successful. The classroom connections of the Harvest of the Month program in this context are driven by individual schools. So Erin and I, in partnership with volunteers, teach lessons about the Harvest of the Month item in the classrooms to introduce kids to what is served on the lunch line. Next. The procurement process starts pretty early in terms of a timeline. I usually start working on recipes up to 2 months in advance for the featured month, or for the featured item. That's how far ahead of time school menus are usually developed, although this may vary by school or by district. I then help with recipe development and selection. It is easiest to incorporate Harvest of the Month items into existing dishes, but there ends up being a balance with completely new recipes and tried and true school favorites. The next piece of the process is to determine the quantity, the quality, and the processing of the item that is needed. Schools have very limited budgets, so they like to buy in bulk and wholesale when possible. Likewise, schools have minimal equipment and even more limited prep time and staff, so sometimes going through an intermediary processor is a necessity. Depending on the recipe, especially if the item is going to be processed, like shredded or cubed in the case of beets and carrots, seconds or cooking grade are often a good route for us to go. Working with local or regional distributors has also been a successful route. This promotes more reliable purchasing for the producer and a set availability that the schools can count on. It also helps to work within existing distribution systems instead of trying to establish something new. Next. The procurement process has undergone tremendous improvement this year, in part because we faced some new challenges that we then tried hard to fix. The following were some challenges that we faced in both Monforton and Bozeman this year, but I would like to emphasize that a lot of them will get worked out in any site the longer that the Harvest of the Month program participation goes on. This was a pilot year, but now that the food services have gone through the program, they are more aware of their needs and the resources to make it run more smoothly. One barrier to procurement that we faced was the reliability of products, such as season and weather, that impact whether a school can count on a crop. Schools may not always have a backup plan, so to be as specific as you can about your product and the predicted changes you might encounter, the better. Another challenge that we faced was the reluctancy on the part of school food service staff. Produce that is new to students is a tough sell, which may mean that some Harvest of the Month items will be in greater demand than others. As I mentioned earlier, processing is a barrier as schools have limited equipment to process farm fresh vegetables, so they have to go through a producer or through a processor. This can sometimes add to their costs. We've also faced challenges with quantity mismatch, where producers may have already contracted out what they have grown or produced and so have little left for schools, or schools might not have the demand that you expected for the item that you grew. Delivery schedules can also be difficult to navigate. It's sometimes hard for schools to track harvest and delivery schedules from many sources, so the process may seem disjointed. Communicating your schedule as a producer upfront is extremely useful. Next.
The classroom education is an essential component of a successful farm-to-school program like Monforton and within the Bozeman School District. And it's another avenue for your products to go. So, because even with the taste tests in the cafeteria, students may still be hesitant to try these new foods, like beets and kale, for example. We address this challenge by teaching monthly Harvest of the Month lessons in the classrooms that highlight the same item that is being served in the cafeteria. So some examples of ways in which your products can be used in the classroom are right here on this slide, and I'll talk about them a little bit. So we always do taste tests with every Harvest of the Month lesson. And we may taste the raw food and have kids vote on how they liked it, or we may prepare the food in a few different ways and have the kids do a taste comparison. During February, for example, when the Harvest of the Month was beets, I prepared roasted, dehydrated, pickled, and raw beets, and the students tasted each one. Not every student liked all of the recipes, but every student discovered at least one way that they like to eat beets. These taste tests encourage children to try new foods and teach them the importance of being open-minded to these unfamiliar foods. The goal is that when our students discover a Harvest of the Month item they enjoy, that they will encourage their parents to prepare it for them at home to continue the Harvest of the Month outside of the school day. We also lead cooking projects in the classroom whenever possible. For Carrot Month of January, students in 2nd through 5th grade prepared a grated carrot salad using Gallatin grown carrots. They took home the recipe and many continued to make it at home. We've also made applesauce, kale chips, kale salad and kale smoothies, summer squash salad, and more. These recipes always use the local products coming from producers like you. Classroom activities will also include a curriculum connection to science, art, math, or language arts. We will use your products for these activities, and the students will get to touch them, smell them, examine them up close, which enables them to recognize them and form an understanding of foods that they may have never even seen before. Our lessons will include information about where the product was grown and the seasonality of the food. We'll write the name of the farm or ranch that supplied the product and show it on a map to increase student understanding of local agriculture. This is a great way for us to market you as producers and show children the hard work that went into growing the food. Our classroom lessons are hands-on and exploratory, which allows the children to develop an understanding of and relationship to each Harvest of the Month item. Then when they see it on the lunch line or at the farmer's market, they will recognize it, know what it tastes like, and therefore be more likely to choose and eat it.
In the school environment, when we purchase the Harvest of the Month products, we try to coordinate our classroom and cafeteria pieces so that we are able to order in bulk or wholesale to be more cost effective on our end, but also to be able to reliably get quantities that we need. This is something to keep in mind when you are, as a producer, are working with a school, to ask the school contact if any of this will be used in the classroom. This also prompts the school to think about coordinating purchases and uses on their end. Next.
So our Harvest of the Month programs have been extremely successful this year, and it's only the first year of them. And nothing demonstrates this success more than testimonials from parents and students, which you can see on this slide. Some of our greatest successes have been that now, as a result of the Harvest of the Month program, students are choosing and eating the local items for lunch. In addition, we are building school culture around local healthy foods because during February, for example, all the students know that beets are the Harvest of the Month and will be highlighted both in the classroom and in the cafeteria. We also get lots of excellent quotes like you see on the screen, including remarks about kale. This is the best thing I've ever tasted. We've also heard from parents and the students that students are making recipes with their families at home to celebrate the Harvest of the Month, which continues the learning outside of the classroom. And lastly, and most important, we are supporting local farmers and ranchers like all of you so that the money stays in our community. Next.
There are a lot of opportunities within Harvest of the Month for producers to build their name in the community through these items, beyond simply selling a few hundred pounds of carrots or beets to schools. Some of these opportunities include farm field trips, wherein you invite classes to your farm to connect the students and sometimes their parents to their food, the people who grow it, and it helps to build the value of local agriculture from a very early age. It also offers up an opportunity for selling uglies, seconds, or cooking grade crops that you might not have a market for otherwise. It provides a platform for partnering with local or regional distributors. By using these distribution systems, getting your farm on their product list can increase your visibility to other buyers. Including promotional materials with your product is helpful, as these will get displayed within the schools or be sent home with students to enhance the visual connection between the food and the farm and the farmers who grew it. The Harvest of the Month also provides an excellent springboard for forward contracting, wherein farms grow out their items prior to the purchase or need, specifically for use in the school. This opens up the opportunity to sell more of your products to the schools beyond simply one item per month. Next. Some helpful resources that might be in your region include a local farm-to-school organization like the Gallatin Valley Farm to School as a third party that is motivated to get your products into schools and can help advocate for you or help assist the schools in finding resources to work around the various barriers. Another resource has been farmers markets. When I first moved to the Gallatin Valley, these helped me get to know the producers that were in the area and understand the scale of their operations and what items they were most proud of. I also learned about other producers who weren't present. Another resource that was very helpful was the local distributors. It was useful to learn about larger scale producers or those who weren't geographically proximate, such as grain ranchers or grain or pulse farmers. This also helps to use delivery systems that are already in place to make it easier for you as producers to not add in another step, as you don't have to figure out the time and place of yet another delivery. It also makes schools aware of other products that can be used and procured locally and ease the transition to increasing purchases of local items beyond just the harvest of the month. Our recommendations to you as producers are to get to know the local school landscape, understanding whether school food comes from one central kitchen or from each school individually, and then to try and identify a farm-to-school champion within the school system to help you navigate the process. Next.
So our future goals for our Harvest of the Month programs with Monforton and the Bozeman School District are, of course, to increase the amount of local food in the school cafeterias and classrooms. And one way in which to do this is through forward contracting, which Monforton School is hoping to do for this coming school year, where they'll work with a farmer to plan out the items that they hope to purchase from that farmer, and the farmer can plant the desired quantity, so they already know that that will be a market for it. We are also hoping to build more school gardens to increase the amount of local food in the cafeterias, and continue to lead farm field trips, which if any of you are interested in hosting farm field trips, please do get in touch about that. And lastly, we want to thank you all for your hard work in growing food for our community. We hope that with our Harvest of the Month programs, we are helping to promote your products and teach children the importance of keeping agriculture close to home. Thank you for your time, and please don't hesitate to contact us with any questions.
Thank you.
Great, thanks so much to you both. Finally, we are going to hear from Nate Brown. Nate and his family run Amalthea Organic Dairy, which is a sustainable organic company that makes organic goat cheeses near Bozeman. Amalthea also grows some produce that has been sold to schools for the Harvest of the Month program, and Nate is going to tell us a little bit about that. Go ahead, Nate.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nate Brown, and like Katie said, I farm with my family here at Amalthea Organic Dairy in Belgrade. We raise milk goats for cheese, pigs, and have 3 acres of vegetables. We started working with Farm to School a few years ago with hosting tours at our farm. This was the first year we started selling produce to Gallatin Valley Farm to School. We sold them summer squash, kale, and beets for their Harvest of the Month items. Aaron and Megan would call to see what we had available and what quantities and sizes they needed. Packaging was usually in, 25-pound bags for beets, totes for summer squash, and bunches for kale. Aaron even stopped by our vegetable field after one of our field trips to get some of the kale leaves for a school lesson. Most of our deliveries happened at farmers market after they were ordered ahead of time. There wasn't really a difference in packaging, washing, or delivery that was different from our other wholesale accounts that we were providing produce to. I would definitely work with schools again for Harvest of the Month. I think there's a ton of value in what they are doing in this program, and teaching kids about how fresh local food can be delicious is a real asset. we try and give them a little bit of a discount just because we know that there isn't a lot of room and prices for school lunches. Some of the helpful information for a farmer to get ahead of time would be what sizes and quantities would be needed. September is kind of a tough month weather-wise with frost, so if we could maybe row cover sensitive crops like zucchini and yellow squash to make sure we had enough for harvest, that would be great. Also knowing maybe the size of beets that we needed for February might also be helpful. We sent over what we had in February, but they were kind of on the small size because that's what we had left at that time. We could definitely save them beets in the sizes that schools process more readily. We also had Chioggia striped beets for classroom projects, which might be fun for the kids. All in all, it was a great experience, and I look forward to working with Gallatin Farm to School again.
Great, thank you so much, Nate, for that perspective. I would just, again, like to remind everybody that you can type in any questions you have for any of our presenters, and I will direct them to the appropriate person. We have some time, so you should be able to see a spot on your screen where you can type in any questions. And as we're waiting for those questions to come in, I'd like to point out that there are lots of additional resources available to you as producers who are interested in selling to schools or institutions. The link at the top I'll point out, and this can get you for some more information on selling local foods to schools as well as other institutions. You can visit the Farm to Cafeteria Network's Farm to Cafeteria Manual, or there's also an archived webinar, Selling to Institutional Markets, that has some more sort of technical advice on that topic. You could also visit the Montana Farm to School website for specific information on regulations and guidelines for selling to schools, as well as direct schools in your area to sign up to participate in Harvest of the Month at the website there. And then, as Aubrey mentioned earlier, you can also register for the Montana Farm to School Summit in September, and we hope to see many of you there. It's a great chance to meet with folks from the schools who might be participating in the Harvest of the Month in your area. And again, we'll send out a recording of this webinar, and you'll have all of these resources available to you. Okay, I am going to go ahead and get started with questions, and again, please type in any more as they come to you. Aubrey, I'm going to direct this question to you. How do I know if a school near me is participating in Harvest of the Month?
Currently, we do not have a listing of registered schools that are participating since we just opened registration, but we will have a map on the Montana Harvest of the Month website once schools get registered. In the meantime, you're welcome to contact me and I can let you know who is or is not registered in your area.
Okay, and then sort of as the follow-up to that, could I as a producer go to a school that's in my area and tell them to sign up or tell them about this program? How would I go about that?
I would absolutely tell them about the program and give them the web address. We will have a handout that covers the basics of Harvest of the Month coming soon. So once that's available, you could give that to them. But at this point, I would recommend they check out the website. There is a short video there that kind of goes through the basics of Harvest of the Month so they could get acquainted with it.
Great, thank you. Erin and Megan, I'm going to direct this question to you, and you sort of touched on this earlier, but could a producer plan ahead with a school, or when would that conversation take place? How would that sort of work?
I would say absolutely, certainly. If you're interested as a producer in selling to a school, reaching out to the school food service is a really great way to go, and it goes a long way in terms of building that relationship. The schools really, really appreciate that. just like you as producers, they're pretty strapped for time and staff, and there's always more to be done than they can fit in a day. So when someone takes the extra step to come and speak to them, they really do appreciate that. In terms of contract or planning out ahead of time, Nate kind of touched on this a lot as well, but knowing what it is that you are able to produce and kind of the quantities and qualities that you can offer to the schools helps give them an idea of what they can count on. Like I said, sometimes they don't always have a backup source available. And when they plan out their menus, they don't really have a ton of flexibility after they print the menu. So in terms of how far in advance to work with a school, at minimum about a month before the item is planned to be served, because that's when menus are solidified. But the more that you can do it even further in advance, especially incorporating the growing season, is really, really helpful for the schools, and probably helpful for you as producers as well, to know that you have a market for, say, 50 to 100 pounds of beets for 1 month, and you're going to set those aside and know that those are specifically for schools. So it's helpful, I think, on both ends.
Great, thank you. And then Nate, do you have anything to add to that from your perspective? Again, you touched on that as well, that it would be helpful for you to know ahead of time sort of what the schools would be looking for.
Yeah, it would be just most helpful to know what would work best size-wise for schools, or quality-wise, just because we want them to have a good experience with getting our produce and make it so that they want to keep doing this. So yeah, just knowing what would help them out best would be great.
Great, thank you. Another question, Aubrey, I'll start with you, and then if anyone else has anything to add on. What if I grow something that is not a Harvest of the Month item?
While we only have the 10 items that we listed currently as the Harvest of the Month program, this program is really kind of a springboard for farm to school and local purchasing for schools. And so I would recommend that you still contact the schools and see if they would be interested. We're hoping that the Harvest of the Month program kind of provides that framework that then schools can continue and grow and purchase other foods as well. And they do need other ingredients besides what's listed as the Harvest of the Month food. So I think it would be great to contact them.
And Katie, I'll just add to that. For the classroom connections, we often are using other ingredients than just the Harvest of the Month items, like Aubrey said, and are always looking for, even if they're just smaller quantities or odd quantities, I can always make use of just any local items and incorporate that into my lessons. So I think it's worth, if you are interested in selling other products, it's worth reaching out to the schools, and if the cafeterias aren't interested, asking if any of the teachers or the classroom education would be interested in purchasing those items from you.
I would emphasize that on the cafeteria end as well. Some of the recipes that we use, even if they are geared towards just carrots or grains, we could also use other local produce that might be in season and incorporate that into the recipe as well, even if it isn't highlighted as a Harvest of the Month item.
Okay, thank you. And I am just going to go ahead and list those items one more time. The items that there's currently materials created for, and those are beets, beef, whole grains, lentils, leafy greens, summer squash, carrots, kale, apples, and winter squash. Another question, first part is this for elementary and high schools? And then kind of related to that is, would the size of the school matter in terms of what they need and how I could work with them? And maybe Megan, do you want to start with that? I know you work with Monforton and Bozeman School District.
Yeah, the size of the school matters a lot, especially in terms of the processing equipment and staff time that the schools have, and then where their lunches or breakfasts end up being prepared. So schools like Monforton And even though Belgrade is a larger district, Monforton is only one school that is K through 8 with a little bit under 500 students. And then Belgrade is a K-12 district with many, many schools. But both of those districts have in-house preparation abilities. So they're doing all of the cooking themselves and then the procurement on an individual school basis. Whereas Bozeman operates out of a centralized kitchen, which many larger districts in Montana do as well. And what happens there is that all of the food has to be prepared in one central location, and then it gets trucked out and served at the various different schools. So at each individual school, in terms of equipment, they pretty much only have heat abilities and some minimal, very minimal processing like chopping, but really nothing more. They don't have stoves or ovens or anything like that. So when we select recipes, sometimes it might not be the ideal way to feature that product that would be the best way to incorporate them into a meal, but it fits whatever the school is able to do. In terms of, yeah, the central kitchen is larger, they have more equipment. Some places have root processors, some places have greater abilities to dice and chop things, and some schools just simply don't have the equipment or the staff time and capacity to be able to do that. So that's a consideration when we select recipes, and then what we need to think about when working with a producer. Another difference in terms of size of a school district is whether the schools are coordinating purchases individually or through a central kitchen, like I mentioned. So some districts, even though there are many schools in that district, each individual cafeteria for each school sets their own menu and does their own purchasing, versus in places like the Bozeman district, it comes out of one centralized place. So those are kind of the different moving pieces that we think about in terms of timeline and contacts and quantity and quality and everything when we develop the recipes and find the sources.
Great, thank you. And Aubrey, elementary and high schools can participate in this, correct? There's no...
Correct.
Great.
Yeah, so elementaries, middle schools, and high schools can all participate in the Harvest of the Month program. Currently, our teacher handouts only have lessons that are elementary focused, and in the future, we plan to add middle and high school lessons to our website and have sort of a bank of lessons as well as additional recipes on the website. So it's not just on the printed materials. So just a logistical thing with registration though, schools should sign up. The best way is really to sign up on a school by school basis, as sometimes, especially in Bozeman School District and ones like that, while this food might be served throughout the district, it might be one or two schools that are doing that education and taste test piece. So those two schools should be really the ones that register, not the entire district, just so they're getting the full benefit of the program.
Great, thank you. One more question and then we will wrap up, unless anybody else has one more to type in. And Aubrey, I'll ask this to you as well. Could a school do different months? For example, if the producer they contacted didn't have squash in September or beets in February, could they change the calendar at all?
They absolutely can change the calendar. So the materials do not have any mention of months on there. So the calendar can be switched up per whatever the school or the producer needs. We do like the kind of calendar that we have set so schools sort of stay together on the calendar, but really you need to do whatever you want. We currently have 10 months, which includes June and September, and then the rest of the years except for the months except for the summer months. And some schools aren't in session in June, which is leafy green. So sometimes they move that over to August if they are a school that starts earlier. So they can absolutely change the calendar.
Great. Thank you. Well, I think that is all of our questions, and we'll finish just a little bit early. Next one. I would like to remind you once again, if you can take a few minutes to complete the survey you'll see on your screen immediately after we close here. And again, we'll share a recording with you of the webinar as soon as it is available, and then you can pass that around to anyone else you think that might be interested in Harvest of the Month, whether that's a school or another producer, parent, an administrator. We will be getting the word out about this Harvest of the Month program. So you can see contact information here. Please feel free to reach out to any of us with any questions you might have. And thank you to all of our presenters today, and thanks so much to you for joining.